welcome to our second session all about Fiji. Last week we were kind of looking at an introduction. We were looking at Fiji's climate. We were looking at the fact that it's just not one island, it's a collection of islands. Some of them aren't inhabited, some of them are. We were looking at some of the animals that Fiji is famous for. And today we are going to be looking at the history of Fiji. So I'm really, really excited to get going. Hello to everybody who I can see who's joining us as I talk, and also everybody over on YouTube, everybody who is watching on catch up. And I'm keen, while I'm waiting for everybody to join us, for you to start thinking about, what do you think these are? So when we often look at the history of a civilization, we're talking about a period of time where they weren't necessarily writing things down. So most civilizations have a prehistory. Prehistory basically means a period of time where people didn't have writing. And so we often have to look at the things that they've left behind. So these are some artifacts. What do you think they are? I'm going to turn my camera off. What do you think they are? And what do you think you can learn from them? So what do you think they are, and what do you think you can learn from them? So lots of thinking. So bits of pottery. Are the bottom bits made of stone? Or are they just a different coloured bits of pottery? Bit in the top looks like it has like a lip of something, so that could be linked to something. Yeah, there's lots of lovely decoration on them. Can you see all the beautiful decoration? They've all been made with beautiful marks that you know, show how finely decorated they are. I think you're probably right that they maybe don't belong to the same item, but these are all pieces of pottery. And we can see that obviously they're quite artistic with the way that they have been decorated. So my next question is, how old do you think this pottery is? So here's some more up close bits. So do we think this pottery is a couple of 100 years old, 1,000 years old? How old? So have a little think in your head. How old do you think this pottery is? So these are different little shards from pots. Again, like beautifully coloured. They've obviously used understood how to use some sort of glaze on it to get these different illustrations. Well, these pots and bits of fragments are from the very first known settlers of Fiji. So they're about 3,000 years old. So if you plonked for 3,000, you are correct. Now, the first settlers of Fiji were the Lapita people, and they settled in Fiji around about 1,100 BCE or BC, depending on what you use. And it's likely that they came from Southeast Asia, that they were sailors and navigators, and they built canoes or ships, and they were navigating and looking for other areas, and they happened upon Fiji and they chose to settle there. So it's likely that they came from Southeast Asia and the islands of Melanesia, which is kind of Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands. And these people, they didn't just settle in Fiji, because if you are by nature an explorer and a sailor and a navigator, you don't tend to just find one place and go, yeah, this will do. They also are likely to have found lots of other settlements in the Southern Ocean. So places like Tonga and Samoa and other Pacific islands, forming the foundation of Polynesian cultures and Fijian cultures. And what the Lapita people did was brought their knowledge of beautiful pottery. And you can see these beautiful geometric patterns. And so whenever you sort of do any archaeological dig in Fiji or Tonga or Samoa, you can see that these early settlers were from the Lapita, because you can see these same fragments appearing in Southeast Asia. So we know that they therefore gravitated and moved. And it shows also that these countries were all trading and connected. So this is the very first settlers of Fiji, these Lapita people. And obviously these settlers settled and they stayed and they developed their culture and their traditions, and these are the people we know as the Fijians. And the Fijians had a really rich oral history, and one of their really famous, one of the really big parts of their oral history was their view of how the people of Fiji and how human beings had come to pass. And so they were very spiritual people. They still are. They believe a big connection between people and animals and the land. And they had a story about how humanity was created. So I thought that I would tell you that story now. It's known as the legend of Degei, who is the snake god, which you can see here. And he was the creator of humans. So I thought I would tell you this story, because I think if we're doing the history of Fiji, looking at the creation story of how the Fijians believe that humans came to be was really important. A long time ago, before there were people in Fiji, there was a mighty snake god named Degei. He was the most powerful being living high in the mountains. His enormous body was covered in shimmering scales, and he could command the winds, rain, and seas. One day, while travelling through the forests, Degei found a small hawk egg. He cared for it, and when it hatched, a beautiful bird emerged. Turukawa. Degei raised the hawk like his own child, teaching it to fly and hunt. But as the hawk grew, it became restless and wanted to explore the world. One day it flew away and never returned. Degei searched for the hawk, but could not find it. In his heartache and fury, he slithered across the land, carving out rivers, valleys, and mountains with his massive body. As he moved, he shaped the land of Fiji. When he reached the ocean, he pushed up islands from the depths, creating the very first lands. But something was missing. The world was empty and silent. Degei felt lonely. One day he happened upon Turukawa, who had found a mate and had built a nest. In the nest she had laid 2 eggs. Degei took the eggs and kept them warm, and from these eggs the first humans were created. The first humans woke up blinking in the sunlight. They looked at the rivers, the mountains, and the forests and felt the power of Degei all around them. Grateful for their existence, they built their first village near the foot of Degei's mountain home. Degei watched over them, teaching them how to plant crops, fish in the ocean, and build great canoes. He warned them to respect nature, for everything was connected, the land, the sea, and the spirits of their ancestors. As time passed, the humans spread across the islands, building families and communities. Even today, the Fijians believe that Degei still watches over them from his home in the mountains, and when the thunder rumbles, they say it's his voice, reminding the people to respect the land and the sea. So that's the story that the Fijians tell, which gives you an insight into their belief of everything that's linked. So animals and nature and the spirit world and gods and the spirits of the ancestors. And this is the story of the snake god Degei, who meets this hawk, hatches out this hawk from this hawk egg, and then eventually the hawk lays some eggs, and out of these eggs hatch some humans. So that's their kind of creation story, which tells you something about their rich history. I thought what would be really nice is if we could learn some Fijian words. So the first word, if you went over to Fiji, that you would probably need to know is bula. Bula. Can we all say bula? And bula means hello. So you would say bula, which means hello. And then you probably would need to know this keri kere, which is please. Now, I don't know if there's any Fijian speakers here, so apologies if I'm not getting the pronunciation correct, but kera kera, which means please, which would be another important thing to learn. So can we all say kera kera, which means please? And then vinaka, which means thank you. I think that's probably another important word to learn. So vinaka, which is thank you. And then mothe, which means goodbye, which is written M-O-C-E, but it's pronounced mothe, which means goodbye. So we've got bula, so bula, which means hello. Kera kera, which means please. Vinaka, which means thank you. And mothe, which means goodbye. Mothe, which means goodbye. Now, there were lots of different, there's lots of different sections of Fijian society. So the first thing I thought that we would talk about is sort of how the Fijian society is developed. So we've got tribes, clans, extended family, and lands. So what do you think, first of all, is at the top? And then what do you think is underneath that? What do you think is underneath that? And what do you think is underneath that? So if you were going to organise, do you think it's the tribe at the top, or the clan at the top, or the lands at the top, or the extended family at the top? What do you think is at the top of their hierarchical society? Then what do you think is next? Then what do you think is next? And then what do you think is next? I'm going to give you a few seconds to have a little think, but don't worry, you can always pause me if you think I'm going too fast. So do you think the tribe is at the top, the clan is at the top, the lands are at the top, or the extended family are at the top? And then who's next, and so on? What do you think? Okay, so lots and lots of different ideas. A lot of confusion maybe between tribe and clan. So Fijian society has traditionally been highly structured, a hierarchical system of chiefs overseeing various levels of administration. So basically, you have a clan, and your clan is your kind of, so you have you, and then you have your extended family, and then your extended family belongs to a clan. So that's how Fijian society works. So if you think about you and your little family unit that lives at home, whatever that might look like, you probably have an extended family. So for example, if I think about my family, I have a sister, and then I have nephews and nieces. They're my extended family. So in Fijian society, you have your family and then your extended family, and then lots of those families are part of what's known as a clan. And each clan is led by a chief, who is referred to as Ratu. So we would be part of a clan. And then those clans, so clans with things that have lots of things in common, they are all part then of a tribe. So a tribe contains various different family clans, and then obviously there are various, sorry, I'm going to say that again. Various family clans would join together to be a tribe, and obviously then there are various tribes that make up all the lands of Fiji. So let's go through it one more time so that we're not confused. So you have your immediate family and obviously your extended family, and then various extended families would join together to be part of a clan, and you'd have lots of things in common. And then there would be various clans that would form part of a tribe, and then there'd be various tribes that would form part that would be part of the lands of Fiji. Because don't forget, remember, Fiji is made up of lots and lots of different lands, and each clan is led by a chief. And then obviously there are chiefs at higher levels, and they are often referred to as an addy or a ratu, because don't forget there's lots of different islands, so how they're referred to differs dependent on which island you're at. But you have a sort of a chief of the clan, and then you would have higher up chiefs within the tribe. And so it's always been traditionally highly structured. Obviously, modern Fiji, a lot of these clan leaders still maintain a lot of input into how Fiji is run, but that's kind of how it works. And then within society, if you were in your clan, there are various different groups of people. So you have chiefs and priests and warriors and craftsmen and farmers and fishermen and women. And then these are their roles within their clan. So one of these has a role as being a born carpenter. So these people are born into their extended family of carpenters, and these are the people in your clan who would build canoes for trade and houses for the clan to live in. Some of these are known as bati, which means teeth, and their role is as soldiers to protect the clan and bodyguards to the chief. So if you were one of those, which group do you belong to? These people ruled over the villages and the clan and were highly respected individuals. This group of people grew crops like yams, taro, and cassava. These people weaved, cooked, and took care of the children. However, if they were from a chiefly family, they could also hold a high-ranking position in the clan. These people performed religious ceremonies, and it was believed they were gifted and could communicate directly with the spirit world. And these people provided food from the sea. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to work out who matches who. So if you think number one, the chief provides food from the sea, then you would have 1G. If you think that the priests grow crops like yams, taro, and cassava, then you would be 2D. So can you match up one side with the other? I should have said maybe don't put answers in the chat to let everybody have a go. Right, let's see how we go. So number one is obviously the top. So the top is your chief. Your chief rules over the village, rules over the clan, and they are obviously a highly respected individual. So number one is your chief. And then underneath the chief, you have your priests, so 2F, so 1C and 2F. So your priests perform religious ceremonies. It was believed they were gifted and could communicate with the spirit world. So 2 is your priests. And then underneath your priests, you have your warriors known as Bhakti, which means teeth. And the warrior's role is to protect the clan and to provide bodyguards to the chief. So they're your kind of soldiers. And then the craftsmen that were known as the born carpenters, they're the people that build canoes and houses for the clans to live in. So you have your craftsmen. And there would be other crafts like pottery making, etc. Your farmers, so 5D, who are growing crops. Then you have your fishermen, so your farmers and your fishermen are kind of roughly sort of underneath your craftspeople providing food from the sea. And then 7E, the bottom of the sort of tribal layer is the women who are weaving and cooking and taking care of children. However, women from chiefly families could also hold high-ranking positions. So this is how traditionally your clan would have been made up. So the chief, the priests, the warriors, the craftsmen, the farmers, the fishermen, and then the women. Now, my next thing, though, is that obviously that was the traditional aspect. One thing that came out last week was the view that some of you thought that Fiji was just beaches and tropical palm trees. And so I thought it was important to look at different aspects of Fiji, because Fiji has modernized. Here are some photos of some of the major cities in Fiji on some of the Fijian Islands. So you can see there's skyscrapers, there's big towns, big buildings. I'll just turn off my camera so that you can see. So you can see that actually it looks like any town really that you would maybe see all over the world. So there's at the bottom left, you can see there's a big cinema advertising various films that are showing. On the right, you can see this big skyscraper, which is probably like big office blocks. You can see modern cars. On the top left, you can see lots of different shops. So even the sort of created flower beds on the left-hand side at the top, seems a very manufactured town or city. And this is in direct contrast to, traditional society. How are these pictures different? So on the left-hand side, you have traditional Fijian houses. On the right-hand side, we're talking about carpenters. While these are some of the original looking canoes that they would have used. How are these pictures different? How are they different? Now, some Fijian communities still continue to live in a more traditional way. These are the traditional houses on the left, but it's a real direct contrast. So what I wanted you to realise, and we're going to look at this in later lessons, is that Fiji is a mix of their traditions and that sort of traditional clan and that traditional tribal society. And you can see these tribal houses and you can see these traditional canoes, but then you can also see modern towns and modern cities. So Fiji's definitely evolved and adapted and changed. So this idea that lots of you, this preconception that lots of you had, that Fiji was still very much just this tropical country that was living very simplistically, is actually not true. There are lots of areas where it's become very developed, and there are some areas that have maintained that more traditional part of their heritage. And so that's something that you could definitely go and look into this week. So go and find out about some of the major Fijian cities and go and look at some photographs and some images and find out some things about what industry they have, and then find a traditional village, a traditional Fijian village, and maybe do a compare and contrast about how it's similar and how it's different. But one thing I didn't want you to get into your head was this idea that Fijian society was just this kind of tropical clan-based society, that actually there were lots of modern areas. So if you're looking for some activities to do, then you can head over to our blog. You will find the blog in the description below this video. It will take you to some activities to do. Do, as I said, go and do your own research. So this whole section or this whole module is about you kind of learning what you want to learn, me sort of starting off you thinking, and then you learning about what you want to learn as part of this case study of this country. So go and find out about some of the major cities. Go and find out whether what sort of villages there are that are more traditional with their clans and their tribes. Find out how traditional clan leaders still have a part to play in how Fiji is run from a government perspective. And next week, we're going to be continuing by looking at some of the flora and fauna that you find in Fiji. Now, don't forget, if you find anything interesting, if you produce maybe a comparison to sort of city versus villages of Fiji, do go and share it over on our Facebook group because I love to see it. Have a lovely week, and I will see you next week for our third lesson all about Fiji. I'll see you soon.